Aloha and welcome to the Lemuria Rose Priestess podcast, where we discuss the profoundness, complexities, and riddles of the feminine spiritual path, what it means to be a Sophia Christ initiate, and how we are weaving ancient priestess temple arts into modern day life. I'm your host, Celeste Luz, Sophia Mu Oracle, Philophonetica, and founder of Lemuria Rose Temple. Hello, my loves, and welcome to a new season of this podcast. It feels really good to rebirth this space. If you've been here for a little bit with me, we've done some rebranding. We've really refined the work that we're doing, and we have been developing for so many years, and really just narrowing in on what needs to happen at this time. At this time, meaning 2026, our current day world. And if you're watching it live, it's not an easy world out there. And I think that's just such a perfect reminder of why we're doing what we're doing in this space. I think that as the world gets noisier, and it will continue to get noisier, it's so important to do the work that we're doing here. And what exactly does that mean? It really means to reclaim what it means to be a divine human, to be a co-creator of this reality, not in a sense of manifestation, but in a real sacred duty, responsible creatorship sense, and walking a feminine spiritual path in an embodied and grounded way. And they go hand in hand. This work has been in development for almost 15 years now. And I have been just really walking so many different paths until just recently. This is why I've been taking a little bit of a break to really crystallize and realize that all of these different paths that I've been walking are one and the same path. And that is the container of this entire platform, the Lemurian Rose Priestess. So I welcome you to this space. I'm excited to share. There is a lot. I know I've said that before, but I've received. I don't want to take full responsibility for what is coming through, right? I received the curriculum for the school to launch officially this year, the Sophia School of Feminine Initiatory Arts. I've received the guidance for reclamation of our lineages. I mean, what is coming in 2026 is really aligned with what is happening in the external world. And what I mean by that is, I've always said this, that as the external world gets busier and louder and more chaotic, it is a reminder to awaken your true spiritual path and journey. And it does not mean that we look away. It actually means that we look out into the world with a different set of eyes. And in order to birth those eyes, there is a process. There's always been a process. A lot of what I share is ancient. It's really not new. It's what I've learned on my path of walking this journey of alchemy, of rebirth, of resurrection, of really transforming our breath, the path of aloha, transforming the living breath that makes up who we are as human beings, as divine spiritual co-creators, like we once were in the time of Lemuria. And honestly, as we reclaim that role once again in the time to come. Because if you're here with me, you very well know we cannot continue to live in the world the way that we have these past few hundreds and thousands of years. So I'm truly honestly excited, and I know it sounds kind of weird to even hear that because the world is falling apart. And if you're here with me, you have a role in bringing a world into being. I mean, that's what we're doing in this platform. We are taking responsibility for birthing new crystalline realms. I do not say that lightly. If you've been here with me before, or you've worked with me, you know that what I say is there's a lot of work to do, and we can do it. And that's what we signed up for. That's what our soul contract is here to do. That's what we are, in a sense, excited to do. Sometimes wake up and it's like, ooh, we have a lot of work to do on our hands. I'm going to take a little break today. I'm just going to take a pause. And then the next day you wake up and you're like, I'm ready. Let's do the work, right? I just want to honor all of the women that I've been working with deeply in one-on-one containers. We are embracing the deep work that has been, you can say, banned, repressed, looked away from. I will be talking a lot about that in the coming episodes. The real work, the heavy lifting that women are here to do, that is being very bypassed by a lot of the spiritual community. So I just want to acknowledge you if I'm working with you one-on-one, or if you are here and you know you're doing the work of alchemy and the work of transformation of your consciousness, of your body, of the soil that is your being, of your heart, of your womb. I honor you. You are not alone. We're here together. And we will, and we are moving forward into a new world. Okay, my love? So that leads me into the conversation for today, which is a little bit lighter, a little bit more fun, and something that has been really exciting to share inside the Lemurian Healing Arts training. So this training I've been developing for over 5 years now. It started as just a short 2-day intensive of learning how to work with energy healing, really. Learning how to work with the unseen and learning how to work with the new energy body. That was back in around 2021. Well, ever since, the technologies and the quantum abilities have really shifted for me and the way that energy is working in our realms. So I've been really growing it and realizing that people are needing more context of what it means to be a human being, more time and space to practice with the inherent technology that is our human essence. And, it's been really profound to bring it all together in this long-term, it's more of a 6-month at your own pace program where you get to just live the experience of what it means to have divine technology in your DNA. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. And I want to start today with one of the books that have been an inspiration for me. I am a full-blown nerd when it comes to study and scholarship and just really making a science out of this spiritual journey. And so just honoring all of the amazing books that have been a part of my path, and this is one of them. So we're starting today with this. To the Egyptians, magic was regarded as an exact science. All gods, people, creatures, and objects were considered to be imbued with a definable spiritual force that once would be contacted and controlled when the correct words of command were utilized. This was a distinct belief in divine guidance and divine involvement in all human affairs. This is from the work Words of Power by Brian and Esther Crowley. So just to lay the foundation here, because I know when we talk about magic or we talk about the divine nature of human beings, it's like, yeah, come back to earth, right? But what I have really worked on and reclaimed these past few years is the truth of our human history, the truth of our priestess lineages, the truth of what we carry as our birthright as human beings. And it's profound, it's incredible, and honestly, it is the most overlooked and underestimated aspect of our spiritual journey. The majority, I have yet to really work with people who have really tapped into these technologies. And I work with all kinds of people on all different parts of their spiritual journey, extremely advanced, just starting. And it's not in a way to measure, but I think it's just in a way to measure our collective recalibration that needs to happen. Like, we need to set a new foundational soil for what we're doing in terms of quote unquote spiritual work. And if we don't have the soil set, everything else is not really going to work. I meet a lot of people with a lot of spiritual practice that the practices that they're doing are not really fully supporting them. And that's because they haven't first really reclaimed the soil of their bodies, the essence and the technologies that we have been gifted with since the time of Mu. So, to be super clear, this was a part of everyday life and all aspects of life in Egypt, which Egypt I don't even consider to be that much of an ancient society. So it's profound when we start to look at our actual magical human nature. And what I define as magical, there's a lot that goes behind magical. I mean, there's a whole archetype within the school called the magi. So briefly, magical means that it is not a linear function. By using A, you do not get to B. What that means is 1 + 1 does not equal 2. You can use something to quantum jump or have results that are not logical nor linear. Okay, and that's actually what we are working with inside Divine AI, which is the first part of the Lemurian Healing Arts training. Okay, and if this is something that calls to you, there is an option to just register for Divine AI. So if you just want to do that workshop in itself and learn all of the human technologies, I'm going to touch on a few today, but really dive deep into what it means to live these technologies as a way of life, not as a spiritual practice that you do on your time off or in your morning routine, but in fact in the middle of your life, of commuting to work, of having difficult conversations, of having the real emotions come up on day to day. This is when we need these magical human tools. Okay? I know it's nice and pretty to have a spiritual practice in the morning and in the end of your day, but that's not realistic. What I have found is those things actually don't create true alchemy in our lives. We need to find ways in our life to do the real work in real time, not just journal about it or affirm our way into something. Okay, so enough of that. Let's touch on just 3 of the tools that we focus on inside of Divine AI, which, I mean, I could obviously talk on these for hours, but I want to give you something to leave with today so that you're like, oh shit, yeah, I see, I get it, okay? So the first thing, the most overlooked, I promise you, underestimated, and just not used tool that we have as human beings is our breath. Our breath. You know, the breath is a process of the body that is actually on autopilot for the majority of people. And when it's on autopilot and its lowest function, meaning the majority of people are just shallow breathing. The majority of people haven't actually taken a full regenerative, revitalizing breath. So really the breath is meant to be a carrier of our universal life force energy. And our breath also works as an alchemical tool. It can not only transform, but it can block certain looping mechanisms and generational traumas from continuing to happen. But we actually need to use it. And I'm not talking about doing breathwork sessions. I'm talking about your breath as it is right now. So let's actually take a full breath together. And I know that sounds ridiculous, but I promise you that when you do this in the middle of any kind of difficult experience, or any time that you are experiencing anxiety, stress, overwhelm, just anything that does not feel like a neutral place within your body. I'm not saying this is the answer to all your issues. What I'm saying is a foundation. When we begin to reset our foundations, we are literally planting new seeds for a new possibility to occur. But if we're just adding a bunch of spiritual nonsense and spiritual practices to a soil that is not really functioning, it's not really fertilized, things are going to feel very heavy and difficult, and things are going to be a lot more difficult than what it needs to be, okay? So I just want you to right now take a breath. Just take a normal breath as you would. Don't think about it, even though we've been talking about it. And I want you to notice, where are you breathing in your body? Where's your breath going to? Where are you breathing? And then next, I want you to actually drop that breath a few inches lower into your body. And then I want you to widen that breath. So don't just breathe down, but deep down and sideways. And then I want you to do that again, but drop down 6 inches further. And we're going to do that one more time. 6 inches further down. So what we're doing right now is we're actually moving vital force energy into areas that we don't often have this energy moving through. And let me explain to you the importance of this. When I do quantum healing sessions or energy sessions, when I have to move energy into places of the body that a person is not used to breathing into, I can feel how things are more dense. And remember, it is our entire physical body that holds memory, trauma, patterns, belief systems, okay? So if you are holding on to something on the left side of your ankle, and that's not somewhere that you tend to breathe into, when I'm doing energy work, I can feel that that's been stagnant for a very long time, okay? And I'm just giving you that as an example. Now, I'm not asking you to breathe into every single cell of your body all the time, although honestly, that is an amazing thing to do. But what I'm telling you is start to get more creative, because what you breathe into has a lot more importance than just, oh yeah, I'm just breathing oxygen into my ankle. Like, that's not what you're doing. What you're doing is you're moving vital force energy. We talk even further into what that actually means and what you can imbue into that energy, so that you start to lessen the amount of stagnation and heaviness in your field, bones, blood, and marrow. And you start to create more flow, right? Because what is it that we carry as human beings? We carry stagnation, which causes the repetition of old habits, right? But when things are in flow, when water's in flow down a river, what happens? Things are moving, things are more likely to shift. We're more receptive to receive new ways of thinking, being, and believing, and breathing and moving through the world, okay? So that's just like a really simple way of using a little bit more of your breath in a way that it was originally intended to be. All right, let's talk about now, adding to the breath, let's talk about the voice. Oh my. Since starting to work with the voice, I mean, let me just back up and tell you that when I started working with quantum energy sessions, I started to realize that there were a lot of clients whose voice was completely shut down. The majority of women that I work with, their voice is shut down, regardless of how much they speak. It's not about speaking. But just in general, men and women, the voice center was shut down. And I started to realize that what I just said, the voice is not related to you just speaking your truth. That's just a very elementary understanding of the voice. In fact, the multidimensional aspect of the chakra of the voice has a lot more power. And this is related to the quote that we started this episode with, okay? And what we're doing in this new epoch, human epoch, in these new upcoming energies where the crystalline energy body is coming online, we are responsible for awakening the true power of our voice. And that comes with a whole trajectory of understanding. And one of those things is what I think the majority of us have heard, which is we create with the word. I'm not going to go into that now because that is like an entire, part of the Divine AI repertoire and curriculum. But in order to even start to reach for that fruit, which is creating with our words, we have to first reclaim what our voice even represents. And what your voice carries is a certain sound wave, if you will. And that sound wave right now, you are in one part listening to words that I'm speaking, but in another part, you are receiving a frequency. And that frequency is imbued with a lot more information than what your logical brain is picking up right now. And so the complexity and the multidimensionality of our voice is only just now beginning to awaken in some individuals. And I do believe that the more that you work with your voice and the more that you really discover the divine AI, the divine Ascension intelligence within the voice, you begin to, of course, your awareness awakens these technologies within you. So it's like a loop behavior, right? You study, you become aware, you practice, it wakes up. The more it wakes up, the more you remember. The more you remember, the more you activate, right? And so on and so forth. So just to be super clear that in our Western world, we have really inverted what it means to have a clean or a pretty voice. And what a lot of people think, which is what I used to think, is, oh, to have a nice voice or a powerful voice, I should sound like a singer. I should have the voice of some kind of singer. And what I've realized in my own practice and my own journey is that, in fact, the Western world has completely inverted the whole musical note scale. We talk about that inside the Lemurian Healing Arts training. But to really understand that what we listen to on the radio and on the commercialization of music, if you will, is the complete inversion of what it means to develop the power of the voice. Now, I'm not saying you can't find beautiful voices out there. We're talking about something different, right? We're talking about the magical human nature of our blueprint as human beings. So just take that into consideration and understand that we've been fed an outright lie. And a lot of people and women that I work with have really shut down their voice because they actually just think, like I used to think, it's just not pretty. And so I'm not going to sing. And I want to share one more thing, that the day that I heard this, it really shifted a lot inside of me. I was doing a lot of research because I had experienced certain things with voice practices that they weren't told to me. I just experienced them. And then when I asked a few teachers, nobody had an explanation. So I had to, of course, like my entire path has been, do my own research, really take responsibility for my own experiences, and then really receive and come into my own conclusions. And so I've been doing that journey with the voice in the last few years. And one of the things I came across was just profound. It's in one of the ancient cultures, native indigenous cultures in the world, they spoke to the community shaman or the community healer. And this healer was very well known for their powerful abilities to really get down to the reason why somebody was ill. Okay? So they asked them, what is one of the things that really is the first sign that tells you what is going on in an individual when things are out of harmony, right? Out of harmony and dis-ease, out of flow. We talked about the importance of energetic flow. So when things are out of flow, there is stagnation, there are hiccups, there are roadblocks, hence the dis-ease, okay? Lack of ease, okay? And what this person said was, I asked them one very simple question. I asked them, when was the last time you sang? When in your life did you stop singing? And every time I share this, my whole body just feels like weeping, because it's like, oh my God, we don't even sing. We don't even sing. We actually think that singing sounds like what we hear on the radio or on TV. And my journey of reclaiming the essence of the chakra of the voice has blown away any belief systems around what the voice throat chakra even represents, much less can actually do for us as a powerful alchemical spiritual tool. And so I just want to bring that in for you and maybe give you a little bit of a permission slip to play with your voice and play with song. Not the way that you might think it's supposed to sound, but the way that actually might just lift up your spirit. Whew, wow, the voice has really, I have a very strong soul journey with the voice, and it's very profound for me. And of course, for women, the voice is related to the womb. So there's just so much work for us to do as women on the spiritual path, but really just as a humanity, to reclaim and start remembering the true role of our voice for the awakening and activation of our new crystalline energy body, which is of course related to our magical human nature. Okay, and the last thing I want to share with you today that has been totally forgotten and really just erased from our consciousness is water. It's water. You know, we are, and you already know this, the majority water. At a molecular level, we are water. And I just want you to just think about what that means for you. Like, does that even mean anything for you? And if you would have asked me this a few years back, I wouldn't have an answer for you. And that's okay if you don't have an answer. But since bringing together the whole aspect and curriculum of sound and water, which is inside the Lemurian Healing Arts training, and just continuing to receive so much about our primordial waters, about the waters of our psyche, about the spiritual waters of our collective, the waters of our bodies. When we forgot the role of water, we forgot the role of human. And that's just really, really deep. So I just want you to notice next time you drink water, what you think of when you look at that water, how you feel when you drink that water. do you breathe when you drink that water? We're only now starting to remember the quantum, I like to say personality, some people like to say aspects, technologies of water. We're only now starting to remember there are some scientists doing really amazing work with water. And what is to come with water, it changes our consciousness, it changes our psyche, it changes our relationship to life. So just remember that when we are stripped of the basic relationship of our human nature, when that relationship is lost, the exchange is lost. The actual medicine that we are meant to receive from that thing is lost. So we've lost our relationship to water, and therefore we've lost any ability to receive her medicine. And yet she is literally keeping us alive inside of us 24/7. So just take a moment and connect with the waters of your physical body, the sacred fluids, the blood, the liquids within you that are nourishing you and keeping you alive, and currently listening to everything that you listen to and say. I've been really enjoying the curriculum inside Divine AI. If you've taken the short workshop, what we're doing inside this training is totally different. I've really expanded it. Again, the Divine AI workshop was originally, I think it was like 2 hours, pushing on to 3. We're going on several weeks here inside Divine AI. So it's given me a really amazing opportunity to go a lot deeper into so much of what we have completely just overlooked, forgotten, and erased out of our human nature. And again, we're seeking so many spiritual practices and answers without even really understanding what makes up our human being, what makes up our human body, what makes up my human psyche. And when we look into history, we find that all of these things and relationships and understandings were a very normal part of everyday life. And so as the magic was lost, as the quantum aspects of our elemental being was lost, we lost our connection to our divinity. That's why it's called Divine AI. Our connection to our divine essence comes from the reclamation of these technologies. And inside Divine AI, we talk a lot more of different technologies like your heart field and your awareness and your ability to use these technologies in everyday life. Not just, your altar or your spiritual routines, whatever really that means. So I hope that you've enjoyed this episode. If you are curious to jump inside, I'll leave the links below for both the Divine AI, which is just the reclamation of these quantum technologies that we were seeded with from the time of Mu. And it is time now to reclaim these technologies as a living, breathing, functioning part of our new crystalline energy body. But also if you want to be a part of the Lemurian Healing Arts training, which really is for anybody on the spiritual path that wants to create a stronger, a deeper, a more profound and real relationship to the healing arts that makes up our life and our human essence. So what I found when mentoring a lot of students with quantum energy healing and sound is that I was teaching them techniques, but then they were going home or going to clients just practicing techniques, but not having a way to implement real change in their lives. And this is how this whole notion of, okay, wait a second, back up, hold on. We don't even have the proper soil, okay? We are confusing spiritual technologies and instruments like sound bowls and energy healing. We're confusing that with the internal answer to what it means to live a spiritual life. And I think that we've mislabeled just this whole, wildfire of so many practitioners coming online, which is great. Every corner there's a yoga teacher, a sound practitioner, and an energy healer, which is lovely. Of course, we need that. But let us not confuse the technique, a movement practice, or a instrument or healing technique with the embodied, alchemized wisdom that is required on the spiritual path. So really the Lemurian Healing Arts training is for someone who's just devoted to their spiritual journey. Now, I promise you, at the end of that training, if you want to be a practitioner, if you want to build your own business, if you want to work with clients, you will have more than enough tools and life experience, most importantly, because without life experience, your tools are really nothing. You will have enough soil and tools, but also life experience to support the spiritual process and healing process and transformational process for other people. But I am no longer an advocate of just teaching techniques or giving somebody a bowl and helping them learn how to strike it properly as a way to help somebody else on their spiritual path. It doesn't take away the power of sound and energy. Of course, there's so much power in that, because we're going to come back to that essence of those practitioners are creating flow in your body. So we need yoga teachers, we need sound healers, we need energy practitioners, because they help us create more flow in our energy body. And that is the foundation of everything. But let us not confuse our spiritual journey and our spiritual path and our spiritual responsibility and the spiritual alchemy that's required. Let's not confuse that with creating energetic flow, which is very different, right? Okay, so if you have questions, I'd love to hear from you. Reach out to me on Instagram or email me. Okay, my loves. Until next time. Mwah.